All right. I think I had 6 o'clock. Go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Number one, roll call.
Pascal?
Here.
Stark? Here. Delahoyd?
Here.
Jesperson?
Here.
Nielsen?
Here.
1B, pledge of allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know we're not.
All right. So.
Things going on. Music chairs, music.
They might have moved you closer too.
Yeah. So, as I was gonna say when we did call the meeting to order, that please be advised that we are now recording all of our meetings as we approved at the last city council meeting. And they will be available on our YouTube channel and our website following the meetings after we make sure we have no hiccups. So 1C, acknowledgement of the Open Meetings Act, which is back on the wall. It has not moved. It is by the door. 1D, adoption of the agenda. David?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Regular. Sorry.
Yep. Roll call.
I second.
Okay, call for a vote. Okay.
Motion carried 4-0.
1E, approval of consent agenda.
That we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Call for a vote.
Motion carried 4-0.
1F, proclamations, presentations. There are none. 2, public hearings. There are none. 3, sheriff's report. Deputy Brownell here with us.
How are you?
Good.
Good. There was actually a very low volume of calls last month. It was cold weather. A lot of people were really enjoying their time with the holidays, having a good holiday, but we had like 50 some calls for service, just about maybe 30, 35 lower than normal. So I guess that's really a good thing. Either I'm doing my job or people are doing what they're supposed to do. One of the two. Something that I brought up the last meeting was, addressing some of the parking complaints. And that has garnered a little bit of attention in this last month. So I just wanted to take this opportunity without taking too much time to kind of clarify my position and my direction and where we're going, where I'm going with this, and my nexus with the city, so that we're all on the same page, as maybe people might be reaching out to you with questions. There was an influx, what I had seen in complaints in some certain areas, but then also in my patrols identifying a lot more trailers that are detached on the streets, 24-hour parking. A truck last night is just leaking oil all over the street. I'm going to address the owner with that. We need to get that out of the street and maybe advise them to clean it up. And some registration issues and such. So abandoning vehicles, campers, trailers, we just want to get them moved. Cars parked in the middle of the front yards. Those are things that we want to address for not just, the aesthetics of the community, so it doesn't exacerbate itself into, okay, that's okay. So I can do it if my neighbor does it. And that's one thing that we're trying to avoid. I can kind of go over a little bit of a case study that I've had recently to help illustrate where my position is and how maybe I can handle these issues. Is generally, it's, let me back up. It's the law enforcement officer, the most important tool a law enforcement officer comes to work with every day is nothing on my body, it's my discretion. I need to be able to have officer discretion in what I do, and sometimes that comes with some significant critiques or critics. But I want to be able to justify myself with inclusiveness, fairness, while I'm being professional with the community as a whole. I'm not disproportionately treating one neighbor versus another neighbor. So how I generally like to handle complaints that are traffic or that are proactively observed by me is I like to issue a warning. If it's a 24-hour complaint, a registration complaint, a violation that's maybe a crosswalk violation, or a fire hydrant violation that's not causing a hazard, or brought up to me by our fire department personnel, that will issue a warning. Okay. If that warning's issued, the problem most of the time gets rectified. The next time, if I come back in a day or two and it's not rectified, especially if the warning's gone, on a car with a flat tire or reported broken down, you're going to get a ticket. Okay. If the problem's then not rectified at that time, the likelihood of you getting another ticket and it towed has escalated itself significantly. And I think that kind of comes to a little bit of just common sense that we're going through these steps. I'm trying to be fair with warnings. I may be trying to make calls if I know who an individual is, but to allow some of the opportunity. Now you want to take it to another level, to where I might tow a vehicle immediately. I'd received in a specific area of town multiple complaints on a circle from multiple residents, but then also from a local fire department personnel that said, I was concerned because I don't think we could get our rigs in there safely. Well, let's take a look at it. I've got a vehicle, expired registration in July. Registration is to another county. It's got a detached trailer that's backed up to. It's on the crosswalk violating our 15 feet rules. And it's within that intersection rules where we're not only blocking an intersection, we're not only blocking a crosswalk, a car pulling up beside it might make it hard to see, right? And our fire department, our rigs. Warnings will probably be issued potentially at that time, but I'm going to follow up soon after. Citations are going to be issued and then vehicles towed for a multitude of reasons that we just discussed. That's my discretion. It's their safety concerns, multiple complaints, multiple violations. Which brings up other questions of, you've got a vehicle registered out of a county. There's a legal term. I know just the gist of it. Your attorney can get into the situs rules and such for justification of jurisdiction and taxation, but it doesn't matter where you live. If your vehicle lives here under situs, this is where it lives. This is where it's using the roads. It needs to be registered here. Okay. That's just the Registration Act in the state of Nebraska. Okay. If your plate registers in July and you move here in March, you have until July, if you're a resident of Nebraska and the county of Nebraska, to get that renewed. Once you renew it, it needs to be renewed in the county in which you live in. A vehicle is not exempt if you're in the military. Okay. Some people think that your vehicle is exempt from registering it where it is because of the military. Well, there is a certain instance. That's if you're out of state as a non-resident and you are established at a military base or such installation based under state law, you don't have to register your vehicle in Nebraska, but you have to keep your vehicle registered. Okay. So students, non-resident, are good to go. If you're 12 hours or more enrolled or full-time, if you're a non-resident, you're good to go. Out of Colorado, Alaska, wherever it may be, you don't have to register your vehicle here. So those are going to be probably some questions brought up. There is one, I was a traffic cop for many years, so I know a little bit of this. You can't avoid here paying your taxes on your registration if your vehicle's not being used. And here's how you do it. You get it off a public right of way, you park it somewhere in storage, and you fill out an affidavit with the DMV. So let's say your kid, your son, your daughter, they served in their country as I did for a long period of time, for 8 years, and you get deployed. Go put your car on grandma and grandpa's farm, take a picture of the odometer. When you get back after 9 months or a year and it's not used, fill out the affidavit with the DMV, take it to them. They're more than likely, obviously, going to say, great, you don't have to pay registration for that year that car wasn't in use because it was parked. That's where your rule comes into play when it comes to military deployments and such. So a lot of information behind it. I know it's bringing up some questions. I'm here to answer those questions. I'm not going to step back and trying to keep the streets, from being cluttered with broken down vehicles, leaking oil and detached trailers and campers that have cords running to them from the garage. We're just not going to let that happen to the community. But then also we want to make sure our rigs for fire department can safely get into neighborhoods that they need to put out fires and probably save people's lives and such. So is there any questions that have come up maybe that I can answer or that you have right now based on my position? Perfect. All right. Any other questions for me?
Thank you.
You bet. And if there's anything come up, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Mayor has my phone number, email, as does Stephanie, so, and Megan. So, your Waverly deputy, I've been here for over a couple of years. I don't plan on going anywhere. I'm working with the mayor and Stephanie on revising a very, very outdated warning, official citation that we can help track these violations to help us complete follow-up. So we have record of what's going on and some better self-explanatory procedures with this information. So that's in the works right now. I think that's going to help quite a bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to mention, Jason, that we missed, because we've been off for 3 weeks, we missed Law Enforcement Appreciation Day last week. So thank you. Thank Deputy Jones and Spalberg for us, specifically you guys, because you're the ones that patrol Waverly, and we thank you for that.
And we do feel welcome. That's why I'm here. I want to stay here. And with that said, liking Waverly, wanting to stay here, if I, another quick 30 seconds, we're getting a couple calls on a gentleman in a van. It's a gold van. It's got Utah plates. He must like Waverly a lot. He checks out. He's good to go out of Utah. He's not suspended. It's just him and his cat kind of rolling around town, sleeping in his van.
Down by the river?
Which he might be now. I don't know, but he's frequenting the Lane Park. We received a couple calls. So Jones got the first call. He did a bunch of research, called down to the jurisdiction in Utah and said, he's an interesting gentleman, like as we all are. To our own degree, but there's nothing at this time we have to be concerned about other than you've got a guy that may establish residency, may not, but he's not violating any laws by moving around town and sleeping in his van. It's not against the law. So he is a gentleman that I prefer not to talk to me. He doesn't answer questions. So I did my research, but I think if you see that or hear of that around town, we're good to go right now. Okay.
Thank you for
You bet.
researching. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
For public comments, is there anyone here that would like to make any public comments? No. Okay. 5, approval of minutes. 6, 6A, claims for payment.
I move that we accept claims for payment in the amount of $271,329.16.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote.
Motion carried 4-0.
6B, treasurer's report and budget and expense report.
That's a motion.
Move that. Yeah.
Sorry, I hit my button. Move to accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote.
Motion carried 4-0.
Introduction of resolutions. 7A, consideration of resolution 2501, adopting and revising the employee handbook.
Move to approve the resolution 2501, adopting and revising the employee handbook.
Second.
I wanted to mention, the reason I asked to have this in is the last couple of years, this is something that we have approved. Previous mayor, and I think Mike also, have given all the employees the afternoon of Christmas Eve off. We're doing it. We may as well make it a resolution if you guys so agree. One of the things that I am working on is increasing employee morale around the city. And with that, I want to work on a total rewards package and sheet. And so I really want to make sure that all the benefits that we're offering them are able to, that we're stating all the benefits, not just what the dollar amount of the salary or the hourly wages, but what we're all offering them. And if we're going to give them 4 hours on Christmas Eve, then let's make sure that we're going to put that in that package. So that's why. Any discussion?
Good idea.
Okay.
That's what we're doing, it should be reflected in there, and I'm glad we're doing that for them.
Next mayor might not like that, so let's get it in.
Well, then in a little less than 4 years, they can change that. Okay, call for a vote.
Motion carried 4-0.
8, introduction of ordinances. 8A, consideration of second reading of ordinance 2411, amending chapter 91 of the Waverly Municipal Code relating to fire prevention.
I move to approve the second reading of the ordinance 2411, amending chapter 91 of the Waverly Municipal Code relating to fire protection.
Second.
So I have another potential version here. We went back and tried to come up with what I thought you guys wanted to do, but I just don't know how to show this to you. Or we can just wait till the third and final reading and come back with this. Essentially, we added a new section 91.07, which just says burn bans. Open flames, including those produced by an outdoor fireplace, shall be prohibited when a burn ban has been issued by the Waverly Fire Chief or a red flag warning has been issued by Lancaster County for Lancaster County by the National Weather Service. For purposes of this section, barbecue grills that are entirely enclosed and primarily for outdoor cooking shall not be considered open flames. We went up and tried to tweak some of the other things that we thought, at least from what I was hearing last week. Remind me again what the consensus was over. I took that out too, I think. Do you have access to your email right now?
Yeah.
Why don't who's got the screen? Are we using the screen to show documents again? or not?
I can.
Yep.
Okay. So let me do this, Stephanie. Let's pull that up. I just want to, there's obviously lots of differences of opinion on this, and I want to make sure what,
Why don't I have the email icon? Megan, can you come here for a second?
sorry to.
While they're working on that,
Yeah.
in general, the one that we have in our Spark, I was probably okay with this one. There's one spot that I wanted to bring up that I'm not sure if we wanted or not, and that was in 9106A number 4. We still had in there, do not allow flames to extend above the pit or chimney.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sent to you.
And that was the only one that was probably the only line that I probably still had a concern with. Now, technically, as written, it says pit or chimney, which according to the definitions would not be portable. But I think even extending above a built-in fire pit, that would be really hard not to have a flame extend.
You could just take.
Just that
I
one.
thought I took that part out.
It stayed in there. Number 4, A4. You did take it out in one spot. You didn't take it out in both.
Oh.
Yeah, there's 2 spots. Yep.
That's probably.
Yep. Early on, it was removed, I believe. The height. Because I think we have it in there that no larger than 3 feet in height, which I think is reasonable. But then down in 9106A number 4, it still had the line to not extend above the pit. And I think if we strike that, I'd probably be good with what we have in here.
Maybe I shouldn't throw a wrench at all.
Yeah, don't pull that, man.
You might have something better to add.
No, I just say, we sat down, we talked about it, and I took my notes back and we tried to come up with something I thought would be consensus, but I may overstep the bounds.
So David's saying if we strike that,
Yep.
The pit part?
The second sentence in A4.
Or the whole sentence.
The whole sentence, do not allow the flames to extend above the pit or chimney.
I said, just take that out.
Because I think that's gonna be really hard.
no, I'm.
Chimney, I think, makes sense, but I don't know that we need to have that.
Okay, but as you're reading it right now on your screen, other than that, you're okay with it. Okay,
I really like how we added in the way that it's written about when it's prohibited. 15, well, did we cut 15?
we cut the 15 miles.
The red flag by Lancaster County or
Or a burn ban by.
Maybe you can just ignore what sounds like it's a special moment where the council came together and
How to get everybody agree at?
So what about the rest of you? We strike what David is recommending striking. Any other?
Aaron, did you have comments?
I just had a question on, what's the mechanism for the Waverly Fire Chief putting out that notice? And kind of what are those
Question.
conditions that would cause the Waverly Fire Chief to do that?
So the red flag warning is declared by the National Weather Service.
And usually I get that either on my phone or it's on the news. It's the Waverly one.
And so, I talked with our fire chief a little while ago, and Robin as well. So he can declare it. We can put it on our city website. We can put it on Facebook. They have a Facebook page as well. We have 3 places in town that we post notices, which is the city office, the post office, and the grocery store, is where the public notices for the city go. Other than that, there's no means for us to share it with anybody other than social media and our website. And so that would probably be, I guess the biggest thing I would say is I can't think of an instance right now for us to declare a burn ban when we don't already have a red flag warning, so. Not to say there isn't one, but right now I can't think of one, why we would.
I think that would be a push notification through the app that Megan would send out as well.
Yeah.
It's a really good point, Aaron. I think that might end up being really important for us to get that in writing from the fire chief on what parameters he would issue a burn ban for. Because I would hate to do this, and then, and I'm not saying he would, but he's all over the place and when he issues burn bans. And let's try today, so I'm doing a burn ban. And it's not based off the National Weather Service. So I just think it's important to have that would probably be important to have in writing somewhere on what would trigger a burn ban from our fire chief.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have some sort of structure around what would indicate him to take issue with that.
And that could be added to the website, like underneath the fire.
Because I think it would help the fire chief out a lot
Sure.
to know what that is as well, so it doesn't feel arbitrary to whoever's in that position.
Sure. Robin?
Yeah, just Robin Huffman, Emergency Services Coordinator for the City of Waverly. We don't take burn bans lightly. We see what surrounding departments are doing. If they're issuing burn bans, we're looking at the fuel conditions, the humidity, winds, all those, variables are taken into account. And just for example, right now we are not in a red flag warning, but 2 days ago, Douglas County issued a burn ban in the whole county, as well as North Bend Volunteer Fire Department. They issued a burn ban in their fire district. So we look at all the conditions, and one thing for certain, we don't want to have something happen in Waverly as is going on in California right now. So you look at what other surrounding departments are doing, you look at the conditions, the fuels, is there any moisture in the forecast? Right now we've had a very dry fall and winter. And so those are the types of things that go into making that decision.
Well, then I would like to make an amendment to this to strike the second sentence in 9106 9106A4. Strike that second sentence, do not allow the flames to extend above the pit or chimney.
Do we have a second?
Second.
You're just voting on the amendment at this point.
Okay, call for a vote on the amendment.
Motion carried 4-0.
Do we need to add something what Robin just said in there? Or that's
No, because this will be, because that's not going to pertain to this ordinance. That will be, we can do that afterwards. So now you're going to vote on the second reading as amended.
And the only other thing I would say is I think this is another really good example of warnings and education are going to be more powerful than writing initial tickets. So hopefully we take that tact with anything that we see here, because I think, like Aaron's bringing up, I think there's going to be a lot of times that there might be a burn ban notice issued that And maybe it doesn't have a National Weather Service one, so not everybody saw it on social media and that type of thing. And I think most people would follow the rule if they're just warned and reminded that there's a bird ban and they shouldn't be birding. So
It feels like it's one of those things where I agree with you, it should be an educational type of opportunity and kind of a best practice and guidance, but not something that going around trying to police, but also make it enforceable, so if there's complaints from neighbors or something's really getting out of hand, that there's something to fall back on. Stephanie, in the one, sorry, I just was looking at my notes. In your one thing that had the notes on it, you said for 9102, except as noted in 9106, where it said it shall be unlawful for any person to set out a fire in any location within the municipality. You then had a note.
Yes, and I'll talk with Mark about that to see if we need to add that in there.
It's just a minor.
Yeah, I think it's because it's referencing another part of the ordinance.
It doesn't change.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, call for a vote on second reading of the ordinance.
Motion carried, 4-0.
Okay. Okay, 9, 10, committee reports. 10A, Human Services, Allison.
Okay. So co-ed volleyball is underway. It started last week. There's 8 teams playing. They removed 12 to 14 trees, and the ash trees are being taken out. So to avoid the ash beetle, boar beetle. So if anybody has ash trees, it's recommended that you remove your ash trees. So unfortunately, Lawson Park Field 5 is almost complete. The dugout topper and benches for the dugouts are forthcoming. Ball field schedule is being set for the spring and summer. The approval of increased fees for the aquatic center as well. Still working on the dog park, getting quotes for fencing. And then there was just lots of discussion about ideas for fundraising and stuff to do with the space of the whole swimming pool.
Thank you. 10B.
Sewer jetting was done on Danvers, Castlewood, and Eastbourne. They repaired several damaged signs around town. I don't know if that was wind damage, car damage.
Probably a variety of such.
So, TVs were picked up and mounted in the room here. So, I had 3 burials, a new heater and AC unit at the shop. They replaced a broken switch on well 10. We continue to place millings on North 148th Street from IA to Waverly Road. They burned the brush pile last Monday, which I'm assuming was getting quite large from all of the stuff going on in the park. New batteries in the zone flashers on Amberley Road. Held a meeting with JEO to start the test well site drilling project. Changed some oil in the return pumps and the sludge pumps at the wastewater plant. And then they did go around and they did a really nice job of applying all the brine and everything to the streets. So we're ready for the storm that occurred last week. So.
All right, thank you. 10C, Public Health, David.
All right, year to date, so far, 11 calls for service. Majority of those are EMS. But I'm sorry, 18 calls for service, majority of those EMS. But we're already ahead of pace from last year. So last year was 11 calls. So started 2025 off ahead of pace. Last year, of course, 2024 total was far ahead of 2023. So continuing that trend. Training equipment has been ordered that will be purchased from the Horizon Bank donation. They're getting 1 EMS training simulator mannequin and 2 QCPR training mannequin sets, which include an adult, child, and infant. And then we'll be developing community layperson CPR curriculum so that they can deploy that with those mannequins for 2025. So
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Nielsen, 10D.
Nothing to report.
All right. Any stuff?
With the holidays in there, it just seems like we've been playing catch up for a couple of weeks, just trying to get everything back into the normal groove. So we did have that initial meeting with JEO on the test well program. And so we met with JEO. They've identified about 12 or 13 sites that we'll be reaching out to property owners in the coming weeks. I am going to work with JEO's community contact person, Andrea. She's going to help me prepare some documentation and proper language to talk to these persons to make sure that we're communicating a unified and solid message to all of these individuals. Because going out and identifying areas for a new well is a sensitive subject to all parties concerned. So we want to make sure that everybody gets the right message and everything. Tomorrow I go to the MPO meeting, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. The city of Waverly was fortunate to be involved in the Lancashire Metropolitan Planning Organization. So I'll go to that meeting. It's we talk about the different transportation initiatives that are going on in Lincoln and Lancaster County. So our Safe Streets for All program action grant is listed on their list of projects that they're doing. And I do meet tomorrow also with our Safe Streets for All Federal Highway Administration person. So I'll have that meeting with her tomorrow. So it's just to check in to see how we're doing on moving through the action items on our action plan. So, and we do have some meetings coming up with the various focus groups for that action plan. And then on January 22nd, our CRA will meet to consider the redevelopment project for the west area-wide tip in Waverly. So the CRA is the first step of that, and so they'll meet on the 22nd to do that. And then the Planning Commission meets on the 27th. So, and then it'll come to City Council after that.
Great.
I'd like to make a motion to enter executive session to protect the public interest, reason being a strategy session with respect to contract negotiation.
Second.
Maybe call for the
Call for a vote.
motion carried 4-0.
We're in executive session at 6:32. We will call you all back in when we are done.